Nature is one of the most fascinating and profound mysteries of our planet. But the more we think we know about it, the more it surprises us, as when it comes to the animal kingdom, everything seems to be much more complex and scary than we think. Every year, researchers come across disturbing events, unknown creatures, and chilling attacks that leave more questions than answers. Where we can best observe this phenomena is in the countryside, where nature seems to go undisturbed, although unexplained events occurred every now and then and leave farmers completely baffled. So, if you're willing to explore and go beyond horror, today we're going to meet some animals that were attacked by unknown creatures and discover the sinister mystery behind each of their stories. Number 4. The Liver Eater. Danger can come from anywhere, and this is something that farmers in India are very aware of when caring for their livestock, especially their sheep, which have become the main victims of a series of attacks that have plagued the local fields for more than a decade. The reports seem to point to the existence of a strange, furtive creature that takes advantage of the darkness to enter the farmers' properties with the sole purpose of grinding the sheep's meat. Some people were convinced that it was some beast of the woods of people silently sneaking into the area. However, this idea has been completely discarded due to the strange evidence from the carcasses. Deep, clean bites can be seen on each carcass with the sole purpose of getting to the sheep's liver. Since this discovery, the locals have nicknamed this beast the Liver Eater, and every dismembered carcass found on the field has the same strange anomaly. The flesh is left in the sun to rot, while the liver is removed with thick, deep bites. To date, there seems to be no explanation. Some people have claimed to have seen the creature, although their descriptions are extremely vague and lacking in detail. The story continues to haunt the farmers and, at the moment, there's no way to track down the mysterious sheep killer. Number 3. A monstrous investigation. Although they may seem terrifying to many people, sharks are fascinating creatures, especially for researchers who spend most of their time deciphering their enigmas, mysteries, habitats, and behaviors. One of the most fascinating specimens can be found in white sharks, best known for being the perfect weapons of the ocean. Few animals can confront this beast, and almost none are left alive after a battle with them, or at least that's what we thought until now. Recent studies seem to have come across a mystery that remains unsolved. According to the research, a team was analyzing the behavior of a white shark of almost 3 meters with an electronic tag that had been placed on its body. Thanks to it, it was possible to record different behavioral patterns and, above all, the routes taken by these beasts of nature. However, something strange happened. The record was reflecting an atypical immersion in the ocean. The shark descended and descended until it was 580 meters below the surface. Hours later, the shark resurfaced, and when the researchers reached it, they only found a piece of its body and a digital tag. How was this possible? Many theories have been analyzed, although none had given a final answer to it. For some researchers, the shark could have suffered an attack by a killer whale, which is usually a great hunter of white sharks, since it feeds on their livers. However, killer whales don't have the ability to descend to such deep levels in the ocean, and even if they did, it would be extremely atypical feeding behavior. Another theory suggests that the shark was killed at the surface and that this part of its body was left to drift, diving to the depths and then emerging again. But this also seems unreliable since the sensors showed that the shark was dragged to the bottom, as its body temperature gradually mutated at a controlled rate. The inability to answer these questions only leaves room for uncertainty. What ocean creature could have done something like this? Why did it dive to the depths? Could this be the sign that there's a monstrous beast waiting at the bottom of the ocean? These questions seem to have no answers, but one thing is for sure: this great white shark hides a chilling story that we will one day manage to decipher. Number 2. A legendary creature. Sometimes the animal kingdom has disturbing ways to show us that reality isn't as we expect it to be. One of the best examples can be found in the legendary chupacabra. the representation of a beast that's found in all the traditions of the world, and it has been described with the same features in completely distant cultures since time immemorial. The chupacabra's attacks are often described as bloody and monstrous. The creature attacks cattle, tears their limbs apart, sucks their blood, and sometimes crushes their bones. It then departs, leaving the carcass in the sun and to be discovered by its mourners. This methodology has been repeated for decades in hundreds of countries, and it seems that in Namibia, on the African continent, herders have begun to have their share of blood and terror. Recently, about 30 goats were found completely drained of blood and serving as food for crows, as their flesh was found intact. Residents of Umkunambwa and Omutia villages are on the verge of panic as more than 30 such attacks have been reported in less than a year. Surveillance doesn't seem to be effective in catching the beast, although some have managed to spot it. They usually describe it as a dog or hyena with a much more robust size and a grotesque snout full of deformed teeth protruding from the mouth. Different hunters have tried to search for some clue or trace to find this infernal creature, but unfortunately, the efforts have only led man to failure. Number 1. Mysterious murders. Monroe County, Kentucky, has never been known for violence or gore. In this part of the United States, incidents rarely occur and law enforcement usually has little to do. However, a series of grisly murders of domestic and barnyard animals has set off alarm bells in the police department. The reports come specifically from the town of Bill Butler Spur, where there have been reports of dismemberments, throat slitting, and all manner of grisly murders of horses, dogs, cats, cows, or sheep. The killer seems to have a specific method. He always starts by tearing apart the necks of his victims, then leaves them to bleed to death, and very rarely feeds on their flesh. The county sheriff has been trying to find clues to solve the case, and Tompkinsville law enforcement has been working on it. The results are confusing and unpromising. Official releases have indicated that the creature could be a large cat or a wild animal that has found its greatest hiding place in the vast forests of the area. However, this theory was quickly replaced to point to a possible human as the culprit. For the inhabitants of the county, this has been extremely strange, especially for his victims, who never found traces of gunpowder or gunshots in the murders. For this reason, many continue to question the veracity of the investigation, and people on social networks have openly said that something very dangerous is hiding in the forest, although they pretend to keep the population in the dark. Is an animal actually responsible for these acts? Is there a monster hiding in the woods of this county? Will the authorities ever find the person responsible? These questions are still up in the air, waiting to be solved, but for the moment, and as in the rest of the cases, it remains under the deepest uncertainty. Of course, incidents of this kind are neither uncommon nor atypical. They occur every day in the most inhospitable corners of the planet. However, there are some that stand out from the rest because of the enigmas they awaken and the macabre stories that surround them. If you'd like to know more about some of these bloody cases, you'd better join us in the following videos and witness for yourself what's hidden there where our gaze isn't attentive. Are you ready to dive into new mysteries? Then check out these videos.